How are you doing this evening? I hope you're well, because the conversations are going to be around so many things, and among us which include the tensions in the DRC. So we need to take a stand as a country. But joining me on set, I do have the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of East African Community Affairs, like I did mention. And then I also have the Commissioner of Political Affairs from the same ministry. And quite unfortunate that we did not have the minister as we had earlier told you about. But hey, let's have the conversation. I'll start off with the PS here. PS, I need to know, what is the role of the ministry? And the viewer would want to know the role that the ministry has, and also how influential it is to the people of Uganda and our position when it comes to East African integration.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. The role of the Ministry of East African Community Affairs is, first of all, it acts as a focal point ministry to coordinate all matters concerning East African community. We do coordinate with other ministries, departments, and agencies to ensure that we are all on board as far as the matters of East African community are concerned. We also steer Uganda's regional integration agenda in accordance with the treaty that establishes the East African community. We do coordinate all the matters, all the issues that are discussed at the regional level. We must ensure that we communicate with the different ministries, departments, the private sector, the public sector, the people. We communicate exactly what decision has been taken and the impact it has on the different groups of people. We monitor here at the national level. We monitor what is being done by the different ministries, departments, and agencies. And I would like to emphasize that the ministry plays a coordinational role. And once the decisions are made at the East African community level, for example, if the ministry is concerned issues of infrastructure, then we communicate to the ministries of infrastructure and make sure that they are on board. We also prepare before we go for negotiations, because that is the critical thing that we do. As partner states, we all come with different backgrounds, different decisions, and different positions. So we prepare here with our colleagues who are going to be playing the negotiation role at the regional level. And we agree on a position. We are also guided by our political leaders to say, if we are going to talk about a matter that concerns Uganda, this should be the position of Uganda. So when we leave here, we all go with one voice. And when we come back, again we communicate to the relevant institutions, ministries, departments, agencies, the private sector, on a need-to-know basis. We make sure that we sensitize, because the public needs to know, why are we integrating? So we do actually the sensitization. We tell people what decisions have been taken and what impact and how they are going to benefit from those decisions. So basically, our role is coordinational. We are focal point. We ensure that the people understand what East African community is all about. And in turn, when we go to the regional meetings, we bring out the position of Uganda on any matter, and we take part in the own negotiations of the policies and the protocols of ESC. Okay.
And when you look at the past few years, or even up to today, Uganda has been a strong advocate, PS, for regional integration. I wonder, though, what has been our role in meeting the East African integration vision, and then also, what has been the progress so far?
The role that we have played, first of all, as Uganda, you are right, we have been very strong advocates of East African integration, and we will continue being strong advocates. And because of that, we make sure that whatever decision is made at the regional level, we embed it in the national decisions, in the national policies, such that it becomes part and parcel of what we do here in Uganda. We also make sure that we are part of the apparatus that take decisions. For example, at the top level, we have the heads of state. Our president is part of the summit of heads of state and is always very actively participating. At a decision-making level, policy-making level, we have ministers who are members of the council and the sectoral councils. At the permanent secretaries level, we have permanent secretaries who take part in the meetings of the coordination committee of permanent secretaries. At other technical level, we have our technical people taking part in the meetings of the senior officials. We also ensure that once we come back, this is embedded in the policies, in the national policies, in the national development plans of Uganda, in the annual plans of Uganda, and even make sure that we budget, we ensure that we budget for the implementation of those policies. When we have a protocol that would require that we do revisit our laws, we bring that on board and ensure that the laws that concern that particular policy is addressed and is actually revisited, because the laws of the community supersede the laws, the national laws. So we have to come here and revisit and harmonize the laws of the community with the national laws. This way we have made sure that as much as possible, Uganda is on board, Uganda is participating, and Uganda is interested in East African integration.
Okay. And Dr. Musime, I wonder though, from your side of things, how do you assess the progress that we've had in regards to meeting the integration goals as a country and looking at it from the perspective of our part in the regional integration?
Thank you very much. Of course, at the regional level, as anchored in the treaty, we integrate major on the 4 pillars of integration. These 4 pillars are the customs union, the common market, the monetary union, and political federation. Now, in these pillars, we have, and also as a region, the EAC, one of the major roles include to ensure economic development, infrastructure development, social inclusion, security. Now, at the different fronts in these pillars, the ministry, or specifically Uganda, has made significant milestones, specifically on the economic side under the customs union. We ensure that we fully implement the, we call it the simplified trade regime, and also the single customs territory. Now, under these provisions in the customs union, it facilitates the movement of goods across the region, helping our traders to be able to trade with the other partner states. And more especially again, we have put in place what we call one-stop border posts. The one-stop border posts is a concept where at our borders we operate 24 hours, but most importantly is that on each side of the border you have the partner state bringing in staff. They sit together. So if it's on the Kenyan side, you have the Ugandan staff on the Kenyan side and the Kenyan staff on the Ugandan side. So any East African crossing that border will need to stop once, as opposed to stop on one side and then cross and stop on the other side. So as a country, Uganda has been very active in ensuring that all the borders that have been upgraded to the one-stop border posts, including Maraba, Busia, Eregu, Mutukula, Mirama Hills, Katuna, operate and facilitate the movement of goods in that direction. And of course, most important again, in as far as the other pillars, especially the common market, the country does very much in facilitating the movement of people to ensure that Ugandans and actually East Africans are benefiting from these negotiated protocols. So the issue of national IDs, using national IDs as travel documents, this is taking place between Uganda, Kenya, and Rwanda. So you can appear on any border of those 3 countries with your national ID, and you are able to move. The other countries haven't come on board. But again, the country, as Uganda, we allow all East African citizens to access visa-free. So if you're an East African citizen, you will come to Uganda without any visa. And actually, all the other partner states do the same, except a few that have just joined and still in transition. So as a country and as part of the EAC partner states, Uganda has made those strides in the various pillars of integration.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you look at over the years, our involvement in the East African community has seen us sign various protocols. I wonder though, how do we assess, do we have measures in place to ensure that we follow up on the protocols and the kind of frameworks we've signed as a country?
Yes, of course, as earlier indicated, we have signed a number of protocols and a number of policies. So what we do at the national level, we have frameworks that help us, you know, monitor a number of these processes. For example, under the Customs Union, we have what we call the National NTB monitoring framework. NTBs are what we call non-tariff barriers, which keep appearing from time to time. So at national level, we have a team composed of various MDAs that meets regularly. Number one, to identify any NTB that has been imposed on Uganda, and then discuss it and then report it in the various channels. We have also what we call the national, the NICs. These are the National Implementation Committees. We have a National Implementation Committee. This one purely monitors the implementation of the Common Market Protocol in Uganda. It's also composed of various MDAs. So it meets time to time to discuss and see how far is Uganda implementing the various commitments under the Common Market Protocol, movement of people, visas, you know, granting student passes, how many East Africans or Ugandans are moving across borders. So it meets at the national level, makes a report, and this report that comes out from the national level feeds into what we call the regional monitoring group, which again now Uganda has to report and compare with all the other countries. And then eventually that regional report ends up in the Council of Ministers, and the ministers discuss and give some policy direction. So in terms of, again, we as a ministry, we have a program we call the Focal Point Officers Program. So where each of the ministries appoint focal persons on EAC integration. So as a ministry, we meet these officers from time to time to find out how far they are implementing the various commitments and decisions in their ministries, then report and get progress into that. And then also importantly is, again, as earlier mentioned by my PS, is that whenever we are having any regional engagement, our starting point is we call the MDAs to the ministry, and at that point we discuss our positions. Then we get political guidance from the political leadership, and in this way we are able, one, to ensure that we go to the region with an agreed position, but also when we come back we are able to follow up the implementation.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And PS, this bit of the single currency, the idea of it, whenever it is tabled, many people do love the idea that we can have a single currency that unites all of us, especially when it comes to trade transactions within the East African community. However, as much as we've been fronting it as a region, and Uganda more so, we do realize that there has been some delay of implementing this. Why is that, and what bit of the challenges have caused or have led to the delay of us adopting a single currency as a region? And I want to hear it from the perspective of Uganda.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy, again. The issue of a single currency is a very important issue in terms of regional integration, because now we have a single customs union where goods are moving freely, where tariffs have been removed, They are tariff-free and quota-free. Goods are moving freely. So people are moving freely. Services are moving freely. So you need to have a single currency that people can use to move freely. This matter was taken on, when the decision was taken by the heads of state, that we do negotiate an East African monetary union. In other words, whereby we unite the currency and you have a single currency. That was done way back in 2013. There has been a delay, but the whole process actually is, takes time, because after you come out with an East African a protocol, East African Monetary Union, then you have to go back and say, what are the institutions that are able to roll out a single currency? And when do we say that somebody has qualified? Because you all don't jump on board and say, let's go into a single currency. No. You must meet certain criteria regarding the currencies, how the currencies are performing, your deficit, if you have any deficit levels, if you have. So all these have to be looked at. And the people who actually negotiate this are both the ministries of finance and the ministries of, the central banks. So after they came out with this monetary protocol on the monetary union, then they looked at the various institutions that we need to put together. And these institutions include an institution which they call the East African Monetary Institute, which actually is a precursor to the East African Central Bank. There's an institution, the Statistical Bureau. This institution will be collecting statistics from all the partner states regarding money issues. The other institution that we need to have in place is the Financial Services Commission. And then we have an institution, a surveillance, compliance, and it monitors whether we are complying with something like inflation level. Because if you have not met the requirement of the inflation, the level of inflation, you don't join the single currency. In fact, implementation of this single currency is not going to happen for everybody at once. Or only those ones that would meet the criteria that is put in place will be joining. And as those countries come on board, others will also come on board when they meet the criteria. Now, these institutions, they have put the law in place, establishing each of these institutions, and now they have to roll them out. Right now, we are determining who hosts which institution. Very critical, because remember, the East African, the central bank, everybody would like to host it. So there is a mechanism which we use to compete, to bid and compete. All of us are doing that. Even in Uganda competed. Now, once that is determined where they are going to put the East African Monetary Institute, a precursor to the East African Central Bank, then they get the people then who determine, who actually play a key role in rolling out a single currency. After seeing that a lot of work is still to be done, this matter has been pushed to 2031. We do believe that is the new target, that by 2031 we would have done everything that we need to do, we would have put the institutions in place, that we would have recruited the right manpower and human resource, and it will be time for us to roll out a single currency. But only the institutions that meet the criteria for joining will come on board, and then the others will join them later.
All right. And since its inception, 1967, 1977, the East African Community then was dissolved. Well, East African Corporation dissolved. 1999, like I did mention, 2000, then we had the current revival. 25 years later, we have 8 countries forming the East African Community. Now, Uganda, amongst these 8, is among the 3 founding members of the East African Community. So this is why our position, our decisions are highly valid if you come to think of it. But that mentioned, after the break, when we do return, I'll be going through some of the questions that you have sent, dear viewer, but then also more of the matters to do with the East African community integration, trade matters, security. Huge, huge one. Stick around.
This is the Front Bench.
Welcome, traveler, to the adventure of a lifetime. Rare, beautiful, and precious. Embrace the unique, unforgettable, and extraordinary. Come and explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa.
Looking for instant excitement? The Uganda National Lottery Spin for Cash game is now available online. Wherever you are, you can join the excitement for just 500, 1,000 and 2,000 Uganda shillings. Don't miss out. Register now on www.nationallottery.go.ug for a chance to win your share of 2 billion instantly. What are you waiting for? Play Spin for Cash now, anytime, anywhere. Ituba is the proud operator of the Uganda National Lottery.
Uganda National Lottery. Dream, play, win.
Participants must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. The Uganda National Lottery is operated by Ituba Uganda and regulated by the National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, every story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda. This is the Front Bench. This is the Front Bench.
Well, over the weekend, there was a joint East African Community and Southern African Development Community SADC Summit, which called for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in the DRC, or the Eastern DRC. Now, the tensions in the Eastern DRC have been making headlines for the past few weeks, and it's something that has been there for quite some time, I should say. But when you look into this particular meeting, which of course saw the President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, His Excellency Felix Tshisekedi, attend virtually, many people are waiting to see what is the decision to be taken by the heads of state following what has been happening there. Now, our concern here as a country is really, what is our position as Uganda? Like I did mention, we are among the founding members of the East African Community, meaning everything that happens within the region, and as much as we're talking about the East African Community integration, such things do concern us so much. So, P.S., let's talk about that issue before we even dive into the other concerns about the East African Community. DRC, Rwanda, M23, conflict.
Thank you once again. Definitely the position of Uganda is peace, like everybody else. Uganda is for peace. And it's true, you have talked about a meeting that took place in Dar es Salaam on last Saturday. This meeting brought together the heads of state from the EAC and the heads of state from SADC. And the two engaged and came out with the certain decisions. One of the decisions they came out with is that there should be cessation of hostilities. Very critical that there should be cessation of hostilities in the Eastern DRC. Two, that there should be immediate ceasefire so that we don't have more loss of life and the disruption of the livelihood of the people. Three, that there should be a restoration of some things like the roads that lead to Goma, whereby the humanitarian facilities, humanitarian support can be taken to the people who are there right now. So they said there should be some routes provided for safe delivery of humanitarian facilities. And also things like food, things like utilities, they should bring them back, utilities, which are, in such a situation when countries are fighting like that, the electricity is cut off, water is cut off, so all those should be restored, and there should be a mechanism to make sure that the people there who are living there are provided with those much needed facilities. Then also the third decision they took was that the DRC should engage with other both non-government and government actors to resolve the conflict that is happening right now smoothly. And in so doing, they did recall that they already had what we call the Nairobi process. The Nairobi process was looking at actually DRC at the time when still there was a disruption of peace in that area. That process had both a military and a political approach. And they had the former president of Kenya, His Excellency Uhuru, was leading the political approach. And then we had a group of the military from Uganda, from Kenya, and from Burundi. They were playing, actually went and intervened. And so there were two fronts. Somehow that was not very successful and was temporarily stopped. But when this meeting took place in United Republic of Tanzania, they said they should reinstate those two processes such that this time round both the EAC and the SADC work together to create peace in this region and to engage within the things that are going on to make sure that there is peace, there is peaceful sorting of the problems that are causing conflict in DRC.
Okay. And away from the DRC question and concern, Doctor, I wonder on the side of capacity building and human development, what role is Uganda's Ministry of East African Affairs playing in capacity building efforts, and which efforts are those, so to say?
Thank you very much. Of course, as a ministry, we try as much as possible to, engage a number of stakeholders to ensure that, one, they are able to benefit from the regional integration, especially through market access, travel and all the opportunities that are around. But specifically, the ministry engages various stakeholders. For example, the ministry goes to the borders. We engage what we call cross-border traders, who include women, youth, and other traders, and we take them through the various protocols, the various opportunities, and various ways in which they can access the regional market. Number two, we have Kiswahili lessons. We have taken up a process of ensuring that we train Ugandans in the use of Kiswahili. A number of initiatives have taken place internally, training the staff in Kiswahili, training other MDAs, especially people who deal in the integration agenda. We, through the ministry, the cabinet was able to take up with this Kiswahili program. Every month the cabinet starts with Kiswahili training. The ministry has gone ahead to develop a comprehensive plan for integration of Kiswahili in Uganda, and currently the various MDAs are integrating part of these plans within their medium-term processes. Of course, furthermore, as a ministry, we have what we call the Youth Ambassadors Program. Youth ambassadors are youth leaders, but who come at a regional level. And every year, Uganda appoints a youth ambassador, and also other countries do the same. And we support this program to ensure that when these people come back to their institutions of higher learning, they are able to pass on the critical issues of integration. We also have some schools where we have introduced in secondary schools ESC clubs, very big clubs that involve students and the leadership in these secondary schools. So that program has been really upgoing. Lastly, we have the ESC secondary school debate competitions. These are done every year, and whenever they are there, the ministry facilitates and works, ensures that Ugandan students participate. And for example, the last time it was run, it was won by a Ugandan student from Kororo SS. So we use most of these processes to ensure that we bring to the citizens a number to be aware about the opportunities that are in the region, and they participate and take advantage of these processes.
On that issue of Kiswahili adoption, so many reports have been written about our failure as a country to adopt the language. Tanzania is doing quite well. Kenya, DRC as well, people are using Kiswahili. And then here, it is only the security forces that are so fluent with it. And maybe those that have lived in Kenya for a while or in Tanzania. Where are we failing at? Is it the education system? Is it the failure of the Ugandans to adopt the language? From your ministry's side, in your assessment, what do you think is failing or has led to the delay of adopting Kiswahili?
Yeah, maybe the last word, the delay. So because with the delay, yes, we have not failed because our attempts have not been there.
Okay.
But Summit took a decision that in addition to English, Kiswahili and French are going to be official languages of the community. And again, directed the Secretariat to develop modalities of implementing this. So it is something that has come. Very soon, we are likely to see official meetings of the community, maybe handled in both French, Kiswahili, and alongside English. So as a country, we have to start the preparation. So we might have been late. So one, as a ministry, as indicated earlier, we developed a comprehensive plan for integration of Kiswahili. This plan was presented to Cabinet, was approved by Cabinet, but there are various actors in the implementation of this plan, and these different MDAs are handling that process. But we believe the shortest route and the quickest route, yes, we believe that there are some schools that offer Kiswahili, but in most cases you find that it's in an optional basis or choice basis. But we believe that with this decision that is there and the fact that now it's going to be an official language of the community, we hope that the Ministry of Education would take up this so that it really becomes part and parcel of our education system, because 10 years down the road, you'll find that some, processes within the EAC, some of the countries that speak Kiswahili might use that decision already in place to demand for these, but also for individual traders, individual travelers to be able to access and freely operate in these markets in Tanzania, in Kenya, knowing Kiswahili would also be an important aspect. So every effort is important. Yes, we have delayed, but they are all efforts. Like currently at the ministry, we have an institution of the EAC called the Kiswahili Commission, which is based in Zanzibar. They have started a program, they call it the Kiswahili Mobility Program. Currently they have sent facilitators, so we have one facilitator in the ministry who is facilitating our ministry and other MDAs, and we have even connected with a number of private sector organizations for these facilitators to go there and train cost-free or free of charge. So we are doing these efforts, and we hope soon we shall try to be able to catch the pace.
I do have some questions coming through. This one says, hello, may I have some questions about the East African community? Tanzanian in Uganda who are married to Ugandan. We pay dependent pass every after 3 years, and we pay much money, 1.3 every after 3 years. Why, really, if we are East African community? I think this is a Tanzanian is wondering about that one. Anyone willing to take on that?
Maybe it can be a peculiar case, but we take note of that, and we, as a ministry, we shall. He can be able to reach us at the ministry. It's open. He can be able to pass on this information, and then we can work with the relevant ministry, especially Ministry of Internal Affairs, to be able to identify. Now, if it's on the other side, then still our ministry can work with the Ministry of ESC in Kenya to be able to find out specifically the nature of the payment that is paid. But critically, as per the treaty, as long as you are an East African, then you should be able to access some of these countries. But then you have to have your nationality. Now we need to know his nationality.
He says he's Tanzanian,
married to a Ugandan, and then paying those. So we shall be able to follow up this particular. But the ministry is open in any case to handle these issues.
This one says, good evening, Mr. Ssonko and the two guests. I am Maju Bosco in South Sudan, Juba. He says that indeed Uganda has contributed much in the integration and development of the EAC politically when it comes to security, socially and economically. I want to inquire from the guests, do they have a monitoring system that also has access to monitor any other countries' internally, because some of their objectives are highly ignored in some of the states. For example, no tie payment at border points, but citizens are paying them. Secondly, also, is there anti-corruption organ within the East African community?
That's a good one. We have any system that is allowing us to monitor
what happens
is going
in
on
other
other
states.
countries. For example, in the midst of East African Community Affairs in Uganda, we are supposed to monitor what is going on in Uganda, but we cannot monitor what is going on in the other countries. So what they are supposed to do, their Ministry of East African Community Affairs, and it is there, Trade and East Africa, in Juba. That is where they will get the information. That's where the monitoring of what is going on as far as the decisions of the East African community are concerned. That's where they'll get information. But we don't monitor in each other's countries.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one says, I'm Umuhereza Tumuramie from Kapiemi Healing City, and she has questions. I think it's a he. There are quite many. One, what do you think are the biggest benefits of Uganda's participation in the East African community? How have they impacted the country's economy? This is a good one. And then the other question is, how can Uganda balance its own interests with its commitment to regional integration and cooperation? Because I did also have that question here. I would want one, Dr. Musime, to take on the question to do with the benefits we are getting from being part of the EAC community, and then the PS to take on this other question of how we balance our national interests with the commitments we have to the East African integration.
Okay, thank you very much. So, of course, one of the main benefits, really the main one, supposing we are not in the East African community, the first question would be where would be our market? First of all, that we have factories, we have industries, we produce goods, we have services. So you might definitely be sure that our internal market is not sufficient for a number of products that we produce. Therefore, the immediate market, especially if you don't organize that market, then you're going to access that market in unorganized, in a way that is not organized, where you're going to meet every tax, you're going to meet every hindrance. But being in a regional arrangement, we create and negotiate a market system. For example, as ES, we have a single customs territory, we have a common external tariff, we harmonize policies, we develop standards, and all these processes help Uganda to access regional market. And actually, when you look at some of the trade statistics, you're likely to find that ESC, intra-ESC combined, our trade as Uganda amongst the ESC partner states might be accounting for more than 50% of our trade. Therefore, it means that through these regional markets, we are able to export and import. That's one of the key benefits we are getting. But also, number two, the issue of fraternal relations. Of course, we underestimate the power of the interconnectedness of our countries, but the fraternal relations between our countries are not only historical, but they, you know, when you go to some of the border communities, sometimes you cannot be sure whether this is a Ugandan or Kenyan or a Ugandan or a Tanzanian. And therefore, those kind of relations on the border, one, help harmonious living, help cooperation, help development. And that's why, by and large, you don't have a lot of problems or concerns around border communities. And this is because we are in the same community and people look at the same. Of course, importantly again, if you picked the issue, the trickle-down effect might not be seen, but let me give you an example that before this cooperation, you know, became strong, it would take a trader to move from Mombasa to come to Kampala. It would take 14 days. It would take the same trader 21 days to go to Kigali. Okay. The longer the time, the more money you pay to the driver, to the turn boy, and all those things. But now, and it would take actually around $3,000 in terms of cost. But currently, it takes 3 days from Mombasa to Kampala, and this cost has been cut to almost $1,000. Now, eventually, that means that the goods that come here will definitely have been subsidized a lot because of this arrangement. There is another example that, for example, before this, you know, community became strong, you would import your goods. Your goods would move through these countries. By the time the trader or truck reaches Kampala, it has stopped like 4 or 5 times. Declaration, checking, and so on. But now, you load your goods. These goods are destined actually as far as Guru. You pay your taxes. We put what we call electronic seals. We have what we call the regional electronic tracking system. So your trader will move from wherever it is. URA is seeing it in Kampala. The Secretariat in Arusha, they are seeing it. Kigali is seeing it. And, you know, all these have facilitated trade. So there are a number of benefits. Lastly, we have a number of ESC citizens, especially students, who are accessing, you know, schools and education across the countries. We have a number of Ugandans who are on ESC scholarships in around Africa and other countries around the globe. So the benefits are many, and of course I believe once given more time we shall try to elaborate these things more another time. Thank you. Yeah.
And Pierce, on the issue of how we protect our interests, and then also not forgetting our commitments to the East African community integration.
That's a good one. One coming from Uganda may think that we are not benefiting much and the others are benefiting. But I'd like to assure him or her that integration Benefits come in many ways. Some are economic, some are social, some are political, some are cultural. But when you look at the fact that Uganda, we are landlocked and land-linked, if I can say, it is very important that we work with our colleagues who have access to the sea to make sure that our goods, both exports and imports, can come in through those ports. It is very, very critical. In fact, that's why Uganda, people think that Uganda really likes the East African community, maybe more than others. But we know that we need to have our goods coming in and getting out. That's number one. We also need to know that we need the market, because we are not going to be selling ourselves everything that we produce. If we increase the production of goods, agricultural goods, whatever we produce here, who is going to take it? It has to be our colleagues from those other partner states. Right now, as we talk, the figures show that we have a lot of goods that are going to DRC, and we have a lot of goods going to South Sudan, have goods going to Kenya, and as exports. But also, of course, there are certain goods that we want from those countries that end up here. If we look at the political side, you can see when a crisis like what is happening right now in DRC happens, if you do not have a framework to integrate, to work together as partners, it's going to be very complicated. But now that we are one community with 8 countries, when a matter like that comes up, all the countries get concerned, all of them come together, and they have a framework. They have smooth ways of sorting out some of the problems that come on board. Therefore, I want to say that Uganda is not just giving away. In our negotiations, it is a give and take. So we benefit. We have people who are coming from these countries, the kids who are coming to study in Uganda, in the schools, the private schools in Uganda. That is a good thing. Look at the health. When we had the COVID, handling such matters, a pandemic, which cuts across, you need to work with the other partners. So I do feel that Uganda is not just giving, we are giving and also getting.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I would like to now take the parting shots of my 2 guests this evening. Our time is fast spent, but in the parting shots, one, I would like Dr. Musime to make mention on the issue of Uganda's role in addressing cross-border trade and free market access. What is our contribution to effective management of regional trade, and in the same regard, addressing challenges that come with it? That is also with your parting shots attached.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So, of course, as a country, we play big across together with other partner states. So, in as far as managing regional trade is concerned, one, we can look at it from the angle of trade facilitation. In order to deal with trade facilitation, you must have trade facilitating infrastructure. This includes one-stop border posts, which I've already mentioned. It includes the road. For example, we come up with what we call the East African Road and Rail Master Plan. And therefore, as a country, we do our part of developing the roads that connect our markets to the region and other roads of the other partner states. The country is doing that quite well. There are a number of examples we can give, but of course, recently, the recent one under completion is the Swam, the Kapchorwa-Swam road, and then the border post, and it's linking with Kenya through Kitale. This is going to open up that side of the area. We also deal with negotiating and creating a number of connections through the East African airspace. There are a lot of negotiations, and the country does a lot of things in ensuring that we have, the airspace open up to facilitate movement of people. We have developed and put in place the East African One Area Network, where we are connecting our countries to on those waves, and Uganda has been really at the forefront in ensuring that some of these infrastructure are in place. But as you have mentioned, there are a number of challenges that come on board. One of them is persistent occurrence and reoccurrence of non-tariff barriers. You don't have a problem today with one particular country and a product, tomorrow morning they wake up and put a tax on that product. Of course, as I've mentioned, we have to go through all the processes to negotiate. You can imagine since 1999, this community has faced around 274 non-tariff barriers, which are negotiated and removed. So currently, as a region, I think there are still around 7 non-tariff barriers, but you can wake up tomorrow and they become 3, you negotiate, they go down. One of the other challenges we face, of course, there are some countries that, as you have seen, have security challenges, whereby then our traders find it hard to move their goods and services across these countries. In those situations, we have been having bilateral engagements with some of these countries to ensure that some of these situations are solved. And lastly, but also important, is that as we negotiate and deal in this region, we implement the agreed positions, the policies. But you find that some countries or in some situations, some policies are not implemented as agreed, which affects the trade and the movement of people. But as and when some of these problems emerge, we deal through bilateral means to negotiate, or through centrally in the council. And Uganda has been participating in all the EAC policy meetings to advance some of these positions. Well, otherwise, thank you very much for hosting us.
All right. Thank you very much for that as well. And PS, in your parting shots, I would like to know the initiatives that Uganda is involved in, focusing on developing infrastructure projects. We do have an issue, for example, with the SGR, and then you can also take us through any upcoming projects when it comes to railway, road, air, if any, and water as well, plus your parting shots.
Thank you very much. On the SGR, His Excellency the President just launched the SGR in was it Tororo? So this, we hope it is going to knock off. Other partner states have been able to launch and put in place the rail and the SGRs. But if you look at what we have been able to do, Andrew has talked about the roads. We have a lot of roads. There's this road to Elegu, Nimuli, that side. We have the road of Mirama Hills. We have the road that talks about the swamp. We have the road, many of these roads actually, which are East African roads. When you talk about the issue of East African petroleum, the what do we call that? The one from Hoima to Tanga.
ECOP.
Yeah. ECOP. Mm. That we are doing it collectively as an East African community, both Tanganyika and ourselves here. If you look at, there's what we call the the security, a security arrangement on Lake Victoria, whereby both the Republic of Uganda, Tanganyika, Tanzania and Kenya, we have a system for monitoring security on the lake. So we are doing that together. It has its headquarters in Mwanza. We have one of the area here in Entebbe, and then we have in Kisumu an office. Infrastructure in area of there's Chikagati Morongo. Chikagati Morongo is at the border between Uganda and Tanzania, and in that there is a dam being made to produce electricity that is shared between Tanzania and Uganda. So there's a number of infrastructure projects that actually are taking place. The ports, of course, these ports are right now, those ones in Kenya, Mombasa and what, they receive funding and they improve those ports, which we all benefit from. So we have done a lot to make sure that infrastructure-wise, we work together to improve the roads, the rail, and like ECOP, where we can share the services that they offer.
All right. And there you have it, dear viewer. I've been having two guests this evening coming in from the Ministry of East African Community Affairs. One has been the PS, Mrs. Edith Mwanje, who has been with us. Thank you very much, PS, for joining us.
Welcome.
And she has tagged along with the Commissioner of Political Affairs, Dr. Andrew Musime, who has also been part of this conversation. Thank you very much, Doctor, for being part of us. And to your dear viewer who has shared your concerns, questions, quite a number of those coming through, we thank you all for being part of the show. Till next week on Monday, when we shall be talking matters health, because we shall be having the Ministry of Health with us here on the bench. So join us again next week, 8:30 p.m. on Monday. I'm Joram Ssonko from the entire production team here at Broadcast House in Kampala. Have yourselves a good evening and a blessed week of love.
Thank you.
Oh, Uganda.